Hey everybody, and welcome to our webinar. We got to echo somewhere. Thanks, Kellyanne. My name is Brooks Mitchell, and I am joined by Kelly and LeConte, who is currently solving our echo problem. We're just gonna we're gonna wait on a few more folks to join us. In the meantime, there's a question for you guys to fill out. I see a couple of people have already answered. Name one way that you engineered a problem over the holiday season, whether it was putting together an IKEA table or how to get a tree out of the house without spilling any water in the container. Give me one thing that you did that you felt like you really engineered a problem. See a lot of tree-related things, you know. Kelly, did you have anything that you had to engineer any problems this holiday season?
My kids' toys.
Okay.
But I like that part, so I was good with it.
Isolate the tree from the cat.
Okay, so how do you isolate the tree from the cat? I must know.
Yeah, you can put that answer in the chat box. Inquiring minds would like to know. This is our first Christmas tree we had with our dog, and I was so nervous that we were going to put it up, and he was going to think, "Oh, a tree! Like, great! Go use the bathroom on it or anything." But he did not. He knew.
That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Experiencing a major pipe leakage requiring work with the association to bring out repair people, adjust living quarters, and review air quality. That sounds like quite a bit of engineering. Fitting luggage and presents into the car for a road trip. I like that one.
That's great.
Yeah. Keep the train running around the track. All right, we'll give you guys a few more seconds. This will be a great lead in for us. All right. So a lot of good answers there. Michelle and Chris, sorry if you didn't get your answer in time. So if you guys want to, you can just pop in a quick note into the chat box. I hope you guys will use the chat box a lot today. We're going to be asking you for feedback. So if you just want to say, hey, I'm Brooks from Boulder or something like that in the chat box to say hello to everybody, that would be great. So I see a lot of engineering problems here, and I think that helps us realize that engineering is all around us. We're doing it all the time, even when we don't realize it. So without further ado, we'll get started. Just a couple of notes here. If you need to test your audio, you can click on Meeting, go to the Audio Setup Wizard. Again, you won't need a microphone for this. We are recording this webinar so that we can archive it later. So just a heads up, be on the lookout for that recording when it comes up. And I guess, if you're having audio problems, you probably can't hear this right now, but you can see what's on the screen. All right, so here's an overview of today's agenda. First, I want to talk about some really great resources for Engineers Week, different things that you can, different websites you can pull, different activities you can pull from that we provided and that some other organizations have provided as well. Then we will be doing Engineering for All Ages, Windy City Tower, and we're actually not going to do strong paper structures. We're going to do Build a Straw Bridge. Sorry, it's a misprint on there. Then we're going to talk about building a local connection, how you can solve engineering problems or kind of model engineering problems that are in your own community, whether they're environmental problems or pollution problems. And we're going to show an activity called water pollution cleanup. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how you can get engineering activities kind of into the home of your patrons. So Kellyanne's going to talk a little bit about some of our family guides that we have, and then we're going to show you a particularly fun one, Zipline Challenge. And then we'll wrap it up if we have time. We'd love to answer some questions and maybe hear about what you guys are planning.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to launch another poll real quick. And I want to get an idea of what kind of engineering activities or engineering themes that you've done in your libraries. So what kind of engineering programs have you done? Whether that's a makerspace, whether it's their own programs, or maybe kind of a career-focused program where you're bringing engineers to talk to your students or your patrons. I'm seeing a lot of people have done a lot of engineering-focused programs. That's great to see.
Jamie, thanks for adding the notes about what you have done, what specific activities. That's great.
Yeah. Give you guys about 10 more seconds and then we'll broadcast those results.
Thanks, Mary, for the shout out to Project Build.
Yeah.
Lots of familiar resources in this webinar for that.
Yeah, some things might look familiar to you, Mary, but not everything. Kiva Plank challenges, that's always a ton of fun. Steam story time. Which shape is stronger, circle, square, or triangle? We might cover that today.
Yes. Please, if you've tried any of these, please jump into the chat here and add your modifications, adaptations, how you've used that kind of activity in the past. It'd be great to hear your perspective as well.
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and close this poll so we can all see these votes. Oh, let's see. Can you guys see all those results? So we about half and half split between a makerspace, which is kind of more of a station activity, if you will. You know, where you go and you have these different kind of self facilitating activities.
Right.
And then your own structured program where you might be leading something like an egg drop or like a build a tower. All right. Hide this. And I'm engineering how to do this webinar with one arm today, so if you guys will bear with me as we set things up and whatnot. Build geodesic domes out of rolled up newspapers. Very cool, Laurie. So of course we want to thank our partners. This is through the StarNet project, and the NSF or the National Science Foundation kind of helps support that and is one of our partners. So we are of course thankful for them to let us put on these webinars. And you guys have probably seen this slide before. Just always a reminder to join our StarNet online community of librarians. StarNet is the go-to place for STEM in libraries. So whether you want to connect with other librarians, that's where we announce all of these webinars. We put out newsletters, blog entries. There's a whole lot of different ways to kind of get those good professional development resources if you're a library staff that wants to do STEM. Or if you're in informal science, you'll probably find something good there for you as well. But it is designed specifically for librarians in that library setting. So a lot of great resources there. These are the big events coming up in 2018 that we're promoting. We just did a webinar on this, but just a nice reminder because I know you guys are planners. Engineers Week, what we're talking about today, that's going to be at the end of February. Earth Day, April 22nd. And then there's 2 NASA missions that are launching this summer. The NASA InSight mission, it's a Mars lander. And then there's the Parker Solar Probe launch. So if you're looking for specific NASA tie-ins, maybe for Engineers Week or just because you want to talk about NASA, these are two great missions that are coming up that would be great to reference. And we'll also be doing webinars about a month and a half out from those. So we have 2 dates for the NASA InSight mission because that's the launch and the landing. Lights on after school in late October, and International Observe the Moon Night in late October as well. And so I just wanted to point you guys into another part of StarNet. That is our events page. So for each one of these events that I just listed, we'll have its own landing page with different resources, videos, links to great activities, and a whole lot of other resources. So as those dates approach and you're wondering, gosh, what am I going to do for the Parker Solar Probe launch? Head over to the Parker Solar Probe landing page, and there you can pull resources. NASA puts out great videos, and there's a ton of stuff. Yeah. Talk about engineering. The cooling mechanism on the Parker Solar Probe is supposed to have some really sophisticated engineering. And so this is from our Engineers Week landing page. Just wanted to show you what resources are available. A little bit of information about Engineers Week. And then we also have all these programming ideas that you're going to be hearing about today can be found on this landing page. Different activity collections, different additional resources. So we have our StarNet resources. One of our partners, Dream Big, we'll talk about that in just a little bit, from the American Society of Civil Engineers. So just a plethora of different things to peruse and look through. A great resource for you to check out. Of course, the STEM Activity Clearinghouse is where all these activities will be coming from. It is a sortable list of activities. You can sort based on content area, based on what your budget is, how much time you have, how comfortable you are with STEM, what kind of materials you have on hand. There's a whole lot of different sortable options. And guys, this is real important to us. We'll show you one of our reviews. But if you do one of these activities and you have a great experience with it or you have an awful experience with it, either way, leave a review. Let other librarians know what went wrong, what went really, really well, what you would do again or do differently. So that's really important to kind of get this online community built up so that everybody can really benefit from it. Okay, upcoming webinars. A lot of resources for you guys. That first link is where we archive all of our resources. We also have our own YouTube channel where we upload our webinars. That's where this one will be found. And I'm going to go ahead and go down here. March 6th, we'll be doing our Earth Day webinar. I just launched registration for that, so if you guys are interested, you can go ahead and sign up for that. And then, Kellyanne, do you want to talk about the webinar that will be going on tomorrow at this time?
Absolutely. So just in the chat, anyone give us a yes or no if you've heard of PLA's project outcome tools. Let me borrow the mic too. All right, so I see some no's. I just wanted to know where to start. So the Public Library Association has an online suite of tools. And Laura, if you'd like to jump in if you've used any of them. It's all a bank of different surveys that you can use either like right after a program, or if you want to follow up with your patrons later at a later point when they come back in, all designed to help you collect data and measure impact. So they've got a really nice online dashboard and a way for you to use that data in order to go talk with your stakeholders and really get some some evidence to back you up to help you shape the future of your libraries. And we are working with PLA to present about project outcome, just one, so you have access to their free resources, but also because in particular they have 2 STEM questions that are optional add-ons right now. And we'd love for you to join us and just chat with us about what would you like to understand about your STEM programs. So if there were some existing resources out there, you could just print out a survey and get some input from your patrons. What is it that you would ask for? So if you could join us tomorrow, if you're able to take on 2 webinars in the same week, we'd love to have your input on this.
All right, thanks, Kellyanne. And if you click on that link, it'll take you directly to the registration page. Greg, if you could throw the link in the chat box as well. So that'll be tomorrow at 1 p.m. It should be a great, helpful webinar if you guys could join us. Okay, and lastly, these are just a big old list of resources for Engineers Week. I think I sent out a link bank with all of these on there earlier so you can access it that way. These are different collections that we've developed, and these are from a different project, but they're available for everybody on our clearinghouse. There's a nice little featured video that could be helpful for each one. Just real quick, this first one's about bridges. The second one's about engineering for natural disaster and environmental problems. The third one's about cleaning up and pollution, and the last one's about renewable energy. So very modern, big topics that your students or your patrons, could really latch on to. Over here, Dream Big is an IMAX film. It was kind of produced in partnership with the American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, and they have a ton of great stuff. We worked closely with them on a different project. They're great. They have their videos, of course, are really helpful and set a good scene. The IMAX movie, if you have a chance to go see it, is wonderful. But they also have a lot of activities and other great tools and resources that you can pull. Discover E, they have a great landing page for Engineers Week too. I want to say it's their official. I'm not sure who owns Engineers Week, but they play a big role in it, and they have a lot of great resources, so you can go and check that out. And our past webinars, these are all YouTube links. We will be talking a lot about this hands-on fun from StarNet and STEM events for your library's 2018 programming. Check out those recordings because there were some great activities facilitated in that that you might want to see. So, Deborah, awesome. We'll see you tomorrow as well.
Absolutely.
A doubleheader. Okay, and this is our engineering design process. Now, this is a link. You can go pull this from the clearinghouse if you want to use this in your activity. And it's just kind of a helpful tool to get people in that engineering mindset. I know, I have a science background, so that's what I think of. I think of it in terms of the scientific method. But when you're doing engineering, that thought process is just a little bit different. So you want to think, you want to plan, and then you want to build your design, test your design, see what works, what doesn't work. And the biggest part of this to me is the do it again. Okay, so you want to retest. That's the engineering process. Failure is a good thing. If you fail at something, you want to redesign and then retest and get to the best possible outcome.
And feel free to print out this icon. This is for you to use. It's been used in library programs, and it was really thrilling for us to hear back that patrons were telling each other, don't give up, keep trying your design process when they were using this process and seeing this diagram. So it's very inspirational.
All right. And with that, I think we are ready to jump into our first activity. I know. So I'm going to pull a video real quick. This is from Dream Big. And this is just kind of talking about some of the challenges that engineers encounter when they are designing giant, big structures like the Shanghai Tower. So guys, I'm going to let it buffer for just a second so that it plays for everybody. If for some reason you have a problem playing this, it's about a 45-second video, and we can send you the link. It should be in that link bank. But it's just kind of talking about how engineers deal with wind problems when they have tall and large buildings. Okay, so for this activity, we probably won't have a $2.6 billion budget, but we will kind of be dealing with some of those same things, like how do you design a tower that can withstand 100-mile-per-hour winds? So this first activity is called Windy City Tower, and I chose it because I thought it was a fun activity that you can do not just for your students, or your patrons, sorry. You can do it for all ages. So you can do it for adults. The first time I did this activity was for a kickoff meeting we had here, and we all had so much fun designing and redesigning. So of course it's great for children and students, but it could also be useful for adults as well. So you see here, this is from Dream Big, or ASC set up a table, and they had to engineer a makeshift sign. So you set parameters for your patrons to build a tower that they will then test by putting it in front of a box fan. So the idea is to build a tower that you can place as close as possible to that box fan. That's your design challenge. But the parameters or your criteria for designing your structure are that it has to be at least 14 inches tall. And of course, you can change that based on what age you're working with, what kind of materials you have. But I think the standard go-to is about 14 inches tall. You only get a limited amount of tape. So you could do a yard of tape, you could do 2 feet of tape, you could do 1 foot of tape. And it has to be able to hold a little metal washer at some place on top of it. You can't use the tape to hold the washer. It has to be able to, I guess, rest or set a metal washer on top of this structure. So again, those criteria: 14 inches, a limited amount of tape, and it has to hold a washer on top of it. So from there, you give your patrons paper, you give them tape, you give them time, and they can work together as a team. They can do it individually. And yeah, you basically see what they come up with and what they create, and what is the most wind-resistant tower. So let's do some cooking show magic here. We have already made our towers. And what we're going to do, so we're going to test them. This is my tower. And Kellyanne, do you want to show your tower?
Yeah, here's my attempt to mimic what the engineer was developing here at this. Just trying to take some advice from engineers here. Actually.
Okay, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but we have a poll up right now. Which one of you guys, this is my design, and this is Kellyanne's design. What do you guys think is going to withstand the Windy City Tower?
Sorry. It's not looking good.
It's not looking great. No, it's not. So we have designed already. Now we're going to go to the test part. I'm not even going to I'm not going to broadcast these results because I don't want to make you feel bad.
No, you should.
Okay.
You should. I can deal with it.
You can deal with it. Okay. So overwhelmingly, people think my design's gonna do a better job.
Yep. So your washer, sure?
Yes. So these are kind of tiny washers. You probably can't see. Maybe 1.5 inches wide. You might want to use bigger washers. It will give them a little bit more flexibility. So we're just going to place that right on top so we can see 14 inches tall. It's holding the washer, and I think we used about a yard of tape when we made ours. I'm not instilling a lot of confidence right now.
I'm not, am I?
So we're going to bring you guys, after we test ours, we're going to ask you guys in the chat box, how can we improve? What's your idea for redesigning these Windy City Towers? All right, you want to go ahead? We're going to start on one, and we'll see how it goes from there.
And we're going to go ahead and mute, so you'll be
yes.
not hearing us for a moment.
Okay, so one did not fare so well. The other did. I'm still going to do a redesign on mine. I saw it move just a little bit. In the chat box, what do you guys think? What can Kellyanne do?
Please help me.
Please help her to redesign her Windy City Tower and make it a more sturdy activity. What do you guys think a good plan of action would be?
More tape. All right, and Brooks, we are limiting ourselves to 6 more inches. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So we're setting for our redesign. We're going to do 6 more inches of tape.
And a base. I love it.
Yeah, I think it needs a base as well. Wider base, smaller surface of paper, foundation. Jeffrey, yeah, we have some recycled paper back there that we're going to use. You just need to make sure that everybody gets an equal amount. So that's kind of the name of the game, is allocating. Oh, I like that. Mary says perhaps some slits to allow wind to pass through it.
I like it.
Yeah. So you just need to make sure that you're setting a parameter for your patrons, and that not one group gets to use 3 yards of tape. Nancy says less surface area.
Less surface area. Yeah. Sounds good.
So how many pieces are you going to use? Just one?
Well, I only have 2 here, so I was under budget to begin with. That didn't do me a lot of good, but I was under budget.
Let's take this off. Can you fold the paper like origami? Now, that's a good idea, but it still needs to be 14 inches tall. So, I'm going to try to funnel wind away from the top of mine. So maybe it'll shed that wind away. Or maybe I'm just creating more surface area.
That is the dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So I'm trying to leave more room for the wind to pass through my design here. And I've made a base. Less corners, that's good.
Heather, there's supposed to be 14 inches I think is what it lists on the Dream Big activity.
Oh no, I'm missing my criteria then.
You are missing your criteria. I wasn't going to say anything because I kind of bombarded you with a request to make a Windy City Tower. I didn't want to.
All right, so I have one more piece of paper allocated to me. Let me see what I can do here.
Heather says, can a piece be like a tall needle? Yeah.
Ooh, a tall needle.
I think that's something that engineers have to deal with on buildings, like antenna and things like that. So.
Right.
Multiple bases for stability. Yeah, and of course, the surface that you're on is going to matter too. So if we did this on carpet, it would be a different, a different reaction, I guess. I'm thinking like a scientist because I'm like, oh, what variables, can we throw in here? So doing it on carpet versus doing it on a slick paper or a slick tabletop, excuse me. It actually looks surprisingly stable.
We'll see. All right, just trying to get this one last piece together. All right, what do you all think?
You can type an A for mine. You can type a B for Kellyanne's.
Better?
Okay.
I appreciate the encouragement. Okay, Brooks, I'm ready to try again. Get my washer up there. All right, are we ready?
Is it tall enough? Yeah, I think it's tall enough. I mean, a standard piece of paper is. But we're being generous because we like Kellyanne. But maybe you would go around with a tape measure or a ruler to make sure that they're all tall enough. But 14 inches for our purposes today, yes, it's tall enough. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and mute again so you guys don't hear the Oh, it looks like my redesign was not successful. Kellyan's was.
Sometimes you get better and sometimes you don't.
I know, I shouldn't have done anything.
I think I need more height, so.
Yeah. Was not expecting that result.
Thank you, everybody, for
I
your
should
input.
have. You know, I over-engineered it, so that's something to think about. Over-engineering too many materials. This is just a cool picture because this is, I think, what Kellyan was going for down here, and this is at a ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, conference or session, and they did this activity, and this was the winning design. And I think they found out, what was she? She was like a
She was a structural engineer who does deal with wind for a living.
Yeah.
So I was trying to take a page from her book, but I think I need to go talk with her.
You probably did, yeah. She doesn't have anything on you in terms of astrochemistry, though. So.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it is a great activity, not just for youngins, but also for adults as well. All right. So we want to talk real quickly about another activity that you can do that would be fun for people of all ages, and it has to do with bridges. You guys may have done this before. Build a straw bridge. So I really like this activity because it is so modifiable based on what you have. So in our write-up, we say, use straws. And I think that's just because one of our partner libraries had a lot of straws on hand. You could also use uncooked spaghetti noodles. You could use like skewers or toothpicks. You could use candy. I'm sure a lot of you have done a Build a Bridge challenge. It's just a great way to get a lot of people involved and to talk a lot about engineering. So we have an example of a few different bridges that were built. And I want you guys, what kind of shapes do you see in these bridges? Squares, circles, triangles, arches, rectangles. Triangles, arches, rectangles, all of those things. Yeah, awesome. So again, this activity really talks about, yeah, go ahead and share that other video. We're going to go to another video feed here. Talks about why those shapes are useful and how they're useful. So really quick, I just want to show you guys. This is a great kind of thing to bring up with your patrons. Not all shapes are created equal. So here we have an index card square. Okay, and you can already kind of see how non-sturdy. Maybe I put it right here. So when you press down on it, it just kind of collapses just like that. So squares are not a great shape for building. Over here, though, we have our triangle. So when I press down on the top of it, it gives a little bit, but it doesn't break. It kind of actually turns into a little bit of an arch. So our triangle is a strong shape. And lastly, our arch is another very strong shape. So this is something easy you can do with index cards just to show your patrons that different shapes make different types of buildings. Okay. So we have our strong shapes over here. Now I want to look at our actual bridge. So Kellyann built this out of straws and tape. And our parameters for this design challenge are that it has to span a distance of at least 6 inches, which it does. Of course, you would only give each group or each patron the same amount of materials to build. And our challenge is how much weight can this hold? So Kellyann has built some nice triangles into this. And I attached that cup on the top just to kind of make this loading process easier. And so we want to see, I have some like little, what do you call these things? Just little gems or
glass marble kind of thing.
Yes, glass marble kind of things. I also have some washers. So you just want to use a uniform size. I think that the activity actually calls for pennies. So if you have a whole bunch of pennies or just something that weighs an equal amount. So I'm just going to start loading these in here. I honestly don't think this thing will go down because it is built so well. And so you might just have your students, or your patrons, add one by one, see what can hold the most weight. If you want to throw some, okay. So if Kellyann, if you were to redesign that, what would you do differently?
What do you all think? What should the bridge be? What modification can we make to the bridge to make it a little sturdier? Wider base?
Wider base. Yeah, I think that's definitely would be helpful. Crossbars on the base. Yeah, so maybe
Oh,
some bars coming
braces
right
on
over
the
here.
sides. I like that too.
Yeah. More support on these arms. Yeah, so all great ideas. Stabilizers at the base. Oh. All right. So again, that idea of creating and then testing and then redesigning. Okay. So I want to go ahead and show you guys kind of what some of our other patrons have thought after doing this activity. So this is one of our partners, Kendra. She reviewed this activity for us, and I don't know, you might have a hard time reading this. I'll just read this off to you what her thoughts were. So this is from our reviews, our clearinghouse reviews. So again, really important because you can go on there and you can see exactly what somebody else experienced. Kendra said, test out the testing process. So I put that cup on top, talking about myself, just to help the weighing, and adding things to it. But you want to make sure that you have a testing process for each type of bridge that you have. She also said printing out and perhaps even laminating a number of different bridge designs. So she wished she had like put up posters of different bridges so that her patrons could have gotten an idea of what kind of bridge to build. She says measuring out a standard length or two of tape for each bridge. So making sure that each patron had the same amount of tape. Kids might have a tendency to over-engineer it and make an entire bridge, just wrap it in tape because they know that it's going to be strong. So again, you might limit the amount of tape that they get, just maybe 1 foot. And the redesign process, part of the process is very important. Again, it's fun to build a bridge, but the real important engineer tie-in is that they learn and they redesign. And lastly, she says you might think it's a good idea to offer an incentive, but it was not. It kind of creates a divisive attitude, and you want your patrons to be working together. You would influence collaboration over competition, if you will. So just a few helpful ideas again on the clearinghouse for each activity. Our goal is to have good reviews, so please go on there if you do one of these and let everybody know your thoughts. All right, so we're going to move into our next section called Building Local Connections. So I love this idea of engineering in your community, figuring out how engineering is done, what problems it solves, and I think it's really a good tie-in for your younger patrons as well to realize like, hey, no, engineering is a thing that happens, and these problems that we encounter, they help solve them. So real quick, I'm going to launch a poll. What local environmental problems does your community face? So you can answer that in the poll, and then in the chat box, respond with how, if any, engineering helps solve those problems. Oh, yeah. See, and somebody can only select one. I must have made the wrong type of poll. Well, yeah, just choose the most prevalent one. I know a lot of you guys probably have 2 or 3 different types of problems you encounter, but what's something that you deal with on a common basis? So floods and hurricanes, engineering ways to keep the water in the river, not on the roadways. Lori, what part of the country do you live in? Nebraska, right? Pollution, floods and tornadoes, air quality engineering. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I haven't thought about that, Fiona. Air quality engineering. High winds, floods, earthquakes. Okay, so a lot of problems here, and of course you can't defeat nature or anything like that. Nature's going to do what it wants, but it's still engineering is a great way to remediate a lot of these problems. Okay, so let's see. Keeping the shingles on my roof during Irma would have been a good idea. Wildfire fires, now mudslides. Okay, so a lot of environmental problems there that your patrons might be able to relate to. I know out here we get a lot of fires. We get a lot of flooding if it does rain a lot. So to take on a big, environmental problem that all people in the United States seem to have is pollution, right? So that's something that we all have to deal with, especially water pollution, air pollution. So I kind of wanted to focus on that because it's applicable to everybody. And as a lead-in to the activity that I'm going to show you, I just wanted to highlight this one real quick. It's called Who Dirtied the Water? And I'm not going to cover it because we just covered it in our last webinar, Hands-on Fun from StarNet. You can find the recording right up there, and it's about at the 20-minute mark. But Who Dirtied the Water is a great role-playing activity. In this activity, you read a story, and your patrons, as you get to different parts, they dump in pollution into a big thing of water. And as they dump in contaminants one by one, and you're reading a story like, about the settlement of your town, basically. So at first, this area was nice, pristine land, and then people moved in and they started to pollute it, is basically the idea. And as they're doing that, people are dumping in contaminants. It creates really dirty, nasty water. It gives a really great visualization of what water pollution is. And it's a good lead-in to water pollution cleanup and low-tech water filter, because these two activities need dirty water. So by doing Who Dirtied the Water, you are creating that. And yeah, it's a lot of ooh, gross, and a lot of kind of like the water gets real gross, and they really have that connection. So we will now go to water pollution cleanup. So once you have your dirty, nasty water, you don't have to do Who Dirtied the Water. You can make your own. We'll show you how, what goes into it. But water pollution cleanup kind of brings in this engineering idea of, I don't want to say budgets per se, but not over engineering and using kind of staying within a budget to solve a problem. So essentially, you've created dirty, acidic water. You create dirty, acidic water, and the goal is to find the most efficient way to clean up that water. Now, as it's written, it's a pretty open-ended activity. You can do things like you can set a budgetary constraint. As it's written, you only allow students to choose 2 different pollution cleanup methods. So I would advise having your patrons get into groups, maybe of 2 or 3, kind of solving and brainstorming a solution to this dirty water, and then moving forward with it. So our dirty water is just oil, vinegar, and a few coffee grounds. And we really want to kind of make acidic water to talk about how there's a chemical way to clean things up and there's a physical way to clean things up. So Kelly can attest this thing's pretty dirty. It kind of smells bad. But the first thing we're going to do is do a pH strip, or put a pH strip in there to figure out how acidic this water is. Now, if you've ever used a pH strip, they're really, really easy to use. You just dip and then you read, you compare the color to the color on the chart. They're about $5 for a big box of them on Amazon, or you could probably get them at Scientific Testing. So what are we looking at, Kelly? And what's the pH in that water?
I think we're looking at a 5.
Okay, so not so bad. I didn't put too much vinegar in there. So we have slightly acidic water. Normal pH is 7.
Exactly, yeah. 7, right? Dead in the middle, so it's a little bit acidic.
Yeah. So Kelly, in front of you, you have coffee filters, which I see that's a very high cost item. You have baking soda in a little bag, or in a little cup. We have dishwashing detergent. We have cotton balls. And are there any spoons up there?
There sure are. They're just camouflaged here.
All right, and 2 spoons. So I want you to think about, what do you think the most efficient way to clean up that water is going to be? There's coffee grounds, there's oil, there's vinegar, we know, because it's acidic.
Well, let's see. I see up there that there's many different options. Some of them look kind of pricey. And I'm thinking that cotton balls look really inexpensive. So I'm going to try a cotton ball.
Okay.
So I'm going to pour a little into a cup here.
And so, guys, of course, this activity could get a little messy. We are kind of doing ours in a self-contained, like Rubbermaid container.
I'm try to maybe pour it here. Just going to try this, see what happens. Looks like I might need a couple cotton balls. Good messy.
So Fiona, the goal is to get the pH back to a regular level, but really I'd say just to get the water as clean as possible. So whether you can efficiently remove the coffee grounds or whether you can more efficiently remove the vinegar, it's kind of up to you.
And it's pretty clear to see, maybe not so clear on the webcam, but it is pretty clear in here that I still do have a little bit of oil left floating on the surface as a little oil slick. I've got some of the coffee grounds removed, so the cotton balls were helping, but I think I've got a little more cleanup to do. Brooks, do we have time for that cleanup, or should we?
Yeah,
should we
I think we can give it a couple more minutes. Heather's suggesting, what if you let it dribble through the cotton ball as if it was a funnel?
That's a great idea. Let me grab another cup here. We'll just something like this maybe, or cotton balls in a cup, and I'm just gonna pour this sludge right on top.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, we also have a link to it in the last slide. It's called Low Tech Water Filter for a high impact clean, I think is the full name. And so I'm not sure what that NASA activity is. I'm sure it's probably pretty similar. So either one of those would be another good alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. The low tech water filter for high impact clean is based on a NASA activity.
Oh.
So if you need the pedigree, it's there in the write up.
Yeah.
And then this one's a little different take on it since it's got like the pH strips in it. But similar idea of just trying to mess with these simple materials, really hands on, and trying to see what works the best. I tell you, it's smelling better over here.
It's good for our office mates.
That's right. And so maybe if I kind of squeeze out a little of the water here, that did help get rid of the oil. I still see a little bit of a shine on there that tells me there's still a little oil. I think we probably have to go ahead and go up to Jeffrey's suggestion there and get a really good filtration device to get the coffee filters out. But we're making progress on the oil.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm ready to go a little more expensive now.
Okay.
And I would like to try. We've tried kind of the physical removal. We're just using some cotton. And I'm gonna see what happens if I add a little bit of baking soda. And of course, it's not this simple out in nature to just add some baking soda and voila, it's clean. But this is mimicking how you might here it goes fizzing a little bit. You might add something into the environment and one kind of chemical, and you need another kind of chemical in order to remove it. So this is just mimicking how that you can use different chemicals to neutralize that pollutant. Right. So now I'm ready at this stage. I've got this water, and I added my other chemical, very fancy stuff, that baking soda. And now I'm going to try another pH strip, and let's see what we get.
Guys, keep in mind, of course, baking soda and vinegar react. So you wouldn't want, you kind of want to regulate that a little bit. Maybe only give your patrons a small amount of baking soda, not to have a big volcanic-like explosion.
And that's another activity.
Yeah, it's another activity.
All right, but look we made some progress here
as
well.
Oh, nice.
We've moved toward neutral. I think I might have overdone it a little bit. We're more towards 8, so we're a little bit on the basic side. But we could mess with our amounts a little bit and experiment on what would work, but we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So a fun activity that allows students to get a little dirty and realize that there's physical, chemical ways to clean things up. That engineering isn't, just only one way. That there's multiple ways to do things. So very nice. Okay, and then these are some other local connection activity ideas. Surviving storm surge, edible destruction, mini landslide, voting for hurricanes. And then the last two are kind of renewable energy type activities. So if you live in an area with a lot of sunlight, daylight in a bottle might be a fun activity to do. And if you live in a really windy area and you want to talk about wind energy, you could do puff mobiles. So just a couple of more local connections. Okay, and one of our last things we're going to talk about today are our engineering family, or our STEM Activity Clearinghouse family guides. So Kelly, I'll let you talk about that just for a little bit.
That sounds great. Let me move some of our paper structures here. Yeah. So we wanted to just go ahead and give you a sense of what one of these guides look like. We have a series of family guides that StarNet has developed for you to be able to have some sort of easy printout that you can just put out, say at your circulation desk or handout at the end of a program in order for the families to go home and have something really simple to do that they can use, just common kitchen materials or whatever they have laying around the house, to do some sort of engineering or science activity. These were first developed in consultation with a group of parents who came into a library to provide their input and really help frame what exactly would go into the guide. And so all of these are framed around that same set of resources. And that includes a hands-on activity. So that's one page of it is just the hands-on activity. And then the flip side of it includes some information for caregivers to just really emphasize how they have an important role to play in their children exploring these different kinds of topics, learning about how you can test variables like Brooks was mentioning, in that scientific kind of mindset, or just design their own solutions to problems and really tackle whatever challenges they have in their lives with that kind of can-do attitude. So we've got several different options for you here. And all three of these activities also have a program sort of format so that it's kind of laid out for you to be able to do in a program as well if you want to do it for 20 kids instead of just send it home for everybody. And one thing, I don't know if Mary, if you want to comment on this, but it was effective for a couple of our libraries, at least from my perspective, to do that daylight in a bottle, for example, and demo what that looks like in the library, and then have the handout for the families to take home. And that really seemed like everybody was super excited to try the activity then, having seen it in the program, what the idea is. So you can find all of these resources on the StarNet Clearinghouse, and they are linked to things that are relevant. So if you're doing something like creating a bridge, then there's a guide that you can send home that relates to that. So it's connected, and in that case, it's all about trying to cross distances, span the gap. So that's where you make your own zip line, and instead of building a bridge in your house, you're having the kids think about a challenge that's in their own lives every day. And that might be just, they need to pass the salt across the dinner table, or they'd like to get some small item from upstairs and get it downstairs quickly. And so they need to create the zip line to help solve that challenge. And they can use a variety of different materials that are laying around the house. And so we've got it set up so that those are all listed and they're on the PDF for the families to do. So we wanted to just demo that one for you because you could see what it's like to make a zip line. Yeah. And we'll go through the activity with you.
All right, great. And this is just a kind of what the front sheet of those family guides looks like on the instructional side. And then on the other side, it's more just tips and facilitation, or just kind of ways to do STEM in your house. So, right. So for make your own zip line, do you want to show what we've created so far?
Absolutely.
All right.
So again, have a couple designs. We've got just some simple cups and small boxes, again, things that you might find in your kitchen, some straws and paper clips that are bent into different shapes.
Yeah, so this is a tea box, so there was tea in here, and I've attached some string to it and then put a clothesline hanger at the top. So really, really simple stuff that everybody should, likely have at their home.
And the kids can put, of course, whatever they'd like to put in here, some like a little toy or something like that to kind of get a sense of, oh yeah, I want to, get this object from here to there. So why don't we go ahead and see how they run? We've got a setup here. We've got a line running down, and actually, Brooks, why don't you hang on to that for 1 second? Let me just move up the camera a little bit here. Let's go ahead and give that a try. We'll just string this through. We, of course, have to have in our design some way for that string to connect. So this uses a straw and a paper clip to kind of hold it in place.
And if you already have a string set up, that can be part of the design challenge, is how do you latch on your zip line or your container to the zip line?
Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and give this a run and just see how it does.
All right. Nice
smooth ride there. Brooks, let's give that
Okay.
the box a try.
I'm not so sure about this one. But
well, you know, it's got more space, so you can carry something bigger. Oh, do you want it?
I was gonna do it, yeah, through the hole in there. Okay. I'll just use the one arm excuse if it doesn't work well.
I like it.
All right, ready? So it's just the one arm.
We're stuck.
We're stuck here. So guys, I'm gonna do a redesign. It's going through the hole on the clothes hanger. You probably can't see this. So I'm thinking, Kellyanne, maybe if I replace the clothesline hanger or clothespin with a paper clip.
Right, it seems kind of rough. And
Yeah.
maybe something smooth.
Yeah, I'm thinking something smooth might be good.
Let's try it.
All right. Let me just. All right.
All right, what do you all think? Do you think it's going to do a little bit better this time?
Ready?
Oh, it even had good balance.
Smooth as butter. All right. So, and again, you could add different elements like you need to carry this action figure, or can you, carry a salt container in here or something like that. So there's a lot of different ways for your patrons to make it fun for them at their home using what they have.
Right, right.
All right. So guys, we have about 8 minutes left. I wanted to set aside some time to answer any questions you guys might have, or if you just want to say, kind of what you're planning for Engineers Week. We'd love to hear that. So if you have any questions or you already have your plans for Engineers Week, we would love to hear it. I do like this coffee filter idea over here to add some weight to give you another container. That's a great question, Jeff. Even though these are cheap materials, they still cost something. About how much do you usually spend per student or per patron for these activities? I guess we couldn't answer that because we're not, in a library right now. But a lot of it is using what you have already. So if you have absolutely nothing, no materials, no straws or anything like that, then yeah, it'll cost a few dollars to get those activities. But a lot of what we showed you is kind of modifiable based on what you have. So build a straw bridge. Windy City Tower. If you don't have washers, you can get a different object to put on there. Just something to give them that your tower has to be able to do this. So Jeff, I can't answer that personally because we're not at a library. But if anybody else has any suggestions on what you normally shoot for your activities, that would be great.
And if you're looking through these activities on the clearinghouse, we did categorize them according to what we spec'd out as far as estimated costs and kind of guessing where people might have some of this on hand, but they might need to buy this. So we try to give a reasonable estimate on there. If you find that we're completely off, please help us and let us know. We'd love your input. And I saw a question about bridge and the tape.
Yeah, so it said with the bridge, so I guess with the straw bridge, did they get to use tape? So when we did it, and I think this is just kind of a demo one that we made. Let me pull this chat box up a little bit bigger. A little bit easier for everybody. So we did, yeah, but you want to set the specific amount of tape that each student or each patron gets. So you don't want to let one patron use, tens of feet of rolls of tape, and then another one only uses 6 inches. So set a standard, everybody gets this amount. Anita, yes, it actually is. It always falls on the week of George Washington's birthday because George Washington was viewed as our nation's first European engineer. Yeah, so it's always on the same week. With Science Saturday. That sounds fun, Lauren. Yeah, Deborah, we know you guys plan stuff so early. So if you can't do anything for this year, it's not like you can't take these activities and do your own engineering day other than engineering week. But if you're doing it as part of a STEAM story time, I would really recommend looking into that Who Dirtied the Water activity because it allows you to make that literacy connection and you kind of can create and read a story about how your area was initially settled.
Right. And connected into all of these water cleanup kinds of activities, like the one Jeff mentioned from the NASA portfolio. So definitely lots of options there.
And yeah, we're not, we do create some activities, but our goal is to find the best activities for library staff. So if you come across an awesome engineering activity that we don't have in the Clearinghouse, feel free to shoot it over to us.
Please.
Yeah, we'd love to look at it and get it up there. Yeah, Lori, Dream Big has a lot of stuff. There's a lot of great video resources. So if you could tie in a 1-minute video with an activity day, that's awesome. That's going to really get those students engaged. Heather, the script is on StarNet, and then there's 2 variations. I did one just based on like Boulder's history, and I think there's one for another.
I think it's Boston
Harbor is the standard, and then I think somebody did the Potomac too.
Yeah, there's many. That's a one of those activities that's been out there for a while and has some local variations. So definitely, you might want to check in with your local environmental groups if you've got an aquarium or a state park service that's near you or something. You might want to check in and see if they have an option already made.
Yeah.
But one of the nice things is that you can put into that script. You can add your own local history. So I've seen that they pretty much standard follow the pattern of what the first settlers, native peoples were doing in that area, then looking at European settlers and just the changes over time as it went from kind of pioneer days to cities and things like that. So feel free to take the ideas and search the internet for what else is out there.
But Heather, I'll make sure that it's linked to our different versions for Boulder and for other ones are linked to on that activity. But yeah, that's great because you can turn it into a small little local history lesson too.
Exactly.
All right, we'll give you guys just maybe another minute or so if you have anything else to add to the chat box. When we wrap up, I will close out the room and it'll take you to a SurveyMonkey survey. We ask that you complete that. That really helps us figure out, how the webinars are going, different ideas of things you might want to hear about in webinars in the future. Oh, yes, and the certificate of attendance is available through the SurveyMonkey link too. Yeah, Jeffrey, we have a lot of bibliography suggestions. So for these 4 activity collection groups that I linked to, for each one of those, there is a list of books that would be a great story time tie-in to, especially bridges. Yeah, there's a ton of awesome literacy connections and historical connections when you're talking about bridges.
And local connections like you're bringing up, Brooks. Yeah. Lots of ways to go. Hey, Deborah, have a great time with Chemistry Club. Sounds fun.
Yeah. So we might be a minute, let's see, you may do a family night using tween groups to host activity stations.
Nice.
That's a good way to get tweens involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Laura, we'd love to hear from you if anything that you try and it works particularly well or does not work with tweens.
Yeah.
We all, I think, would love to see.
The whole library community would love to hear that.
Those 12 and up or so, ways to help them be excited. Oh, Heather, that's a great idea to look at squishy circuits. Very fun. If you have any other suggestions, please enter them.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out the chat room. It'll send you directly to that SurveyMonkey again on the last page. Bedtime math activities. Don't get my brain going too much. On the last page of the SurveyMonkey, you'll get the link to the certificate of attendance. If you can't find it, shoot me an email and I'll send it over to you. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really hope we'll see you again tomorrow too. And just keep your eye out for upcoming webinars. And yeah, happy engineering to you all.
Take care.